What's going on, everybody? It's Corey from the Breakevens, and as always, I am here with Jack.
Hello.
Alrighty, so this week we are doing our team reviews, our first one of four. This week we'll be going on about Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood. We'll give you our best primo, our best rookie, our breakout or slash mid pricer, our avoid or our trap. And Jack, your selection in this is under the radar pick, so someone who might be um,
Risky.
risky. That's it, and not a lot of people are looking to pick. So before we get into all of that, let's just get all the socials out of the way. So on Twitter, you can search us, search at Breakevens Pod. You'll find us there. A lot of interactions on there the past week. We are on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Search the Breakevens, and you'll see us there. Jack, you'll be happy to know your team reveal video has hit over 200 views, which is great. So we're absolutely smashing it. So thank you to everyone who's interacted or watched and liked or subscribed to our content. So thank you all very much. All right. So as I said, Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood. We're going to go through all those selections. We've chosen one each, which is a bit different from last year. So we'll start with Adelaide, Jack. And do you want to give the primo, please?
So I put as my best primo, which it's definitely a surprise, but I've put Jordan Dawson.
Okay.
At 603.1k, I choose him over Laird for two reasons. Price,
Yep.
and he's like a solidified defensive pick where Laird you can get people for a bit cheaper that are gonna basically do the same thing. So I'll put Jordan Dawson.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. Compared to the person who I chose, you're saving 100k.
Yeah.
So obviously, if it's not Dawson, I've chosen Laird, who's 703k.
Well,
Um,
the thing with this is we don't know what each other's put, so we could have the same name down.
yeah. We have no clue. We just went off, did our own thing. So, yeah. There's only two options: Laird or Dawson. I've gone for Laird. You can't go past him. Averaged 127.8 last year, which was an 11-point bump from the season before, which is absolutely insane. He's the VCC option for you each week. Personally, I think he's a little bit overpriced at 703k. I think that's his max, um, which is why I personally have gone for Oliver. But he's 703k for a reason. It's not just because they like Rory Laird. It's because the man scores
let's
points.
just let's just give him 700k. He's not
Yeah,
worth it, but let's just give it to him. Fuck it.
exactly. So one thing to keep in mind though is usually the top Supercoach scorer for the year doesn't back that up. So I'm predicting a small decrease in average for lead. Um, and honestly, I think you can get him for about 650k well, not 650k cheaper at
Oh, wouldn't it be nice?
650. Cheaper at 650k. I don't think he'll go below that. I still think he'll average 120 to 125. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you select him, I can't really hate you for it because he's one of the Uber premiums. So yeah, Roy Led is my primo, Jack. Who is your rookie from the Crows?
So I had a very hard time.
Uh,
um, but I've got him put Luke Pedler down.
okay, yep.
173k. He played a game last year. That's basically what I'm basing it off. He scored 45, so
Yep.
it's okay. It's not great, but it's not horrible. But he's got midfield forward, like that's his positions, and with Jimmy Rowe out, I see a spot going in for him in the rookie price for Adelaide over anyone else.
Yep. Yep,
So I've
I totally
gone with
agree.
him.
Yep, I have seen a few things, Jack, saying that he has really impressed in preseason so far, and he's putting his name up. It's just, will he stay fit? So yeah, Jack, I have heard things about Luke Pedler saying that he's really impressing during preseason so far. The big thing is, can he stay away from injuries? Because I'm pretty sure he's had a few injuries which has kept him out. I believe he's about 170K ish.
173, yeah.
Yep, so he's a bit dearer, but definitely keep an eye on him because he has that DPP as well. Um, my rookie is Andrew McPherson. He's 155K. He has struggled with injuries over his first 3 seasons in the system, and he's only played one game last year. Unfortunately, that one game he got injured and was out for the rest of the season. But before that, I'm pretty sure he's played, I think it was 8 games and maybe 9 games, so not much. If he's fit, he looks to be in the best 22 for Adelaide, just because Billy Frampton has left, which means there is a spot opened up for him there in the Crows defense. But the big question is again, can he stay fit? Out of all the rookies, I think he's the best chance to play round one, so that's why I've selected Andrew McPherson there. So, all right, Jack, your breakout slash mid pricer. Who do you have?
All right, I've got a boy I've been looking at a lot,
Okay,
and he goes by the name of Samuel Berry.
ooh, nice.
At 478.7k, he had an average of 86 last season, and towards the end of last season, he was producing some hundreds and 110 to 120s. Um, he is one I can see taking his game to the next level, just polishing his skills, I guess you can say, which is giving more points instead of losing some. Tackling machine, like we've seen last season. I think he averaged 8 to 10 tackles a game. It was something ridiculous. It was getting those 20 to 25 touches. So if he can just be more accurate and probably impact the scoreboard a bit more, you see his score jump from 86 to 105 to 110.
Yep, yep. He's definitely one that's being talked about at the moment. You do have to think what happens when Rory Sloane comes back. How is that going to affect him? But he's definitely one who has upped his game. So, yeah, that's a good one. I was tempted to put him, but I found someone a bit cheaper. So I've got for Josh Worrell, who's 328K. He's a defender. He played the last 4 games of the season, and with scores of 87, 71, 89, and 51. So he's shown potential there to be able to score. Even though this is a small sample size, again, we're just going off 4 games here. But can he take his game to the next level? I think with Frampton going out, similar to what I said with McPherson, there's a spot there, and he's more proven than Pedler. Um, if he can cement a spot in that defense, I can see him averaging around 75 to 80. And that will make you a nice 70 to 100K going off his price there. So if you're looking for a mid pricer that isn't Yo or Jack Bowes, if you don't trust him because of injuries, you've got Josh Worrell here, who's a young guy looking to make a statement. So Josh Worrell is my breakout and mid pricer. So Jack, who's your avoid and trap?
I'm pretty sure I said this name last year when I did the Adelaide, because I did Adelaide last year, and I'm pretty sure I said it, and I'm saying it again. Brody Smith. He's catching it again. 450.2k he's priced at. He can give you a couple of 100s, but he's way too inconsistent. He'll give you more 40s and 50s than he will 100s, and I can guarantee that. No, Brody Smith, he's always never been a team picker player. He's always been a draft player because
Yep.
he always scores those 80s, and like I said, he can go up to 100, but he can also go down to 40. So for a team picker, it's even too risky for me.
Yeah, we might have to change it next year to who's your Brody Smith? Nice, nice. So mine's Rory Sloane, Jack, at 413k. He's usually a very consistent scorer for us in that midfield with 7 seasons above 100 average. And he maxed out at 114 one season. But he's getting older and starting to pick up some injuries, which means he hasn't really played a full season in 3 years. I believe he's coming off an ACL, Jack. Is that correct?
It might be, but I thought he had an eye problem.
He's got a lot of problems.
It could be both.
Yeah, could be both.
We need to remember which one's the latest.
And coming off a ACL, it is very, very tough. As I say, Jack, 33% of ACLs reoccur in 2 years.
I just
Um,
asked that Sydney bloke that did it 7 years in a row.
yes, yes, he bloody copped it, didn't he? Um, and I don't see him get.
Yeah.
I don't see Sloan going straight back into that midfield. He might have a role up forward and then go into the midfield to start off, or that might be his role this whole season. Who knows? Um, yes, he is cheap, but he's not the one for me, I think. So, all right, Jack, we go to your under the radar pick.
Well, it's quite funny because you know how I said I had a couple of Adelaide blokes?
Yep.
One of them was Rory Sloane. I
Oh,
didn't end up going with him, but for the reason that you just explained. I
yeah.
reckon he gets DPP in the forward line and he averages that 90 odd. I think last season was the same except for his injury game, but that's not who I've gone for. I've gone for a man that I mentioned to you the other day, Riley O'Brien.
Oh no.
560.5k with an average of 101.8. I think he's sliding under the radar. I've not seen one person pick him. And now, if there's a person that's picked him, fucking send it to us on Twitter so we can see it as proof. But the new sub rule, he's always been a one ruckman, so I can see him benefiting from that compared to other rucks. Um, and I also just see the development of Adelaide's midfield because he's mainly a tap ruckman that he's going to get more taps to advantage as Berry's getting better, Laird's Laird, getting more of those taps to advantage, which will boost his score. And obviously, we know what Riley O'Brien can do around the ground. He's practically like Max Gawn. He can mark the ball and he can't kick straight unless he's 60 metres out on a run. So I've gone with Riley O'Brien, my king.
Ah, that's all I'm gonna say on Riley O'Brien is just a big sigh. Okay. The man I've gone for um, is Tom Dodie, 422k defender. The Adelaide fan base want him to be the next captain of the club. He's a great intercept defender. Last year, he was forced to play a bit more of a key defender role, which is not good for Supercoach.
Nah, I'm pretty sure he had a point where he played as the third defender and he was floating into contests.
Yes, but there was times where he did have to play as a key defender. And unfortunately, with Frampton going out, he might have to play that more regularly. But with the emergence of is it Butts? Yep, of Butts
But
and
Nick
uh,
Murray.
and Nick Murray. Um, if they take that key position role from him, he could be that third interceptor player, and I think he can easily go to that 90 plus range. But at 422k, a 90 average is enough for top 10. But it's Adelaide, so I had to pick someone, and I wasn't picking Rob, so I chose Dodie.
And you clearly weren't picking Sloan.
No. Um, all right, so that's Adelaide done. So Jack, take us through Brizzy and your primo. We might have the
I
same
mean,
here.
it was pretty obvious. I've pretty much done the same with Dawson, and I've chosen Josh Dunkley. 596k, the best forward. And I don't really think there's much more I need to say. He plays mainly forward, goes into the mid, averages at 110 plus every year, gets those big 150 scores. He's the he's gonna be the one person in Supercoach history to have 100% people have him in their side because there's no one else.
Fair, fair. Yeah, I've got Dunkley as well. 596k mid forward. Why haven't I got Neil? Because Dunkley provides so much more value. Neil,
Especially for position.
yes. And Neil is priced at about what you think he'll average anyway. Where Dunkley, with an average of 108 last year, we've played forward at times, affected his output. In 2019, he averaged 116.5 with 14 tons from 22 games, Jack, and 8 of those were over 120, and 2 of those were 173 and 202.
My fucking king.
Massive. Now, he's expected to play basically
The
permanent
same
mid
role.
um,
Oh,
with the potential to play forward and and rest down there. So I can see him averaging 115 to 120 easy. And as a forward, it makes him a must-have selection. So Dunkley, 100% in everyone's teams. I agree with Jack.
my
Um,
king.
all right, your rookie, Jack.
Um,
We want the same person here as well.
Jasper Fletcher. No, I'm joking. Will Ashcroft. 202k, number one pick. With the new sub rule, he's definitely going to be playing as that sub.
Shut up, you idiots.
No, he's definitely playing round one, so it's the obvious pick. He could also go at Darcy Wilmot. I think he's around similar price, maybe cheaper. Who will be playing?
Well, what's 123k?
Oh yeah, because he played finals. He didn't play in the regular season. Yeah.
Yep. Um, yeah, so for those who don't know, Jack has been rolling me up saying Ashcroft's not going to play just to piss me off, so he decided to do it there as well. But he knows he's playing round one. So, but yeah, I've got Ashcroft as well, 202k, number one pick. He absolutely destroyed his juniors, and he captained Sandra Ham last year, who he took over from Nick Dacos. And he averaged 30 odd touches against men. And Chris Fagan last year said he could have played last season. He would have easily just fit straight in. So he's rated very highly at Brisbane for good reason. The big question is though, will he get mid minutes? I think he will, but I think he might play a lot of half forward, maybe push
I
on to
think you might
20.
get the day cost half back.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. He can get the half back, but basically wherever the ball goes, he's gonna get the ball. He's shown he knows how to get the ball. So I can see a minimum of 75 average, but I think he could push 85, 90, depending on how much min minutes he gets. So he's a must have, especially in a year where we're not sure um, how secure their places are in the team. We know he's in. So, yep. Will Ashcroft. We started off 2 from 2 the same here, Jack. So who's your breakout slash mid pricer?
Well, I think I might be cutting it close here.
Okay,
I've gone with Kitty Coleman at 479k.
okay.
Averaged 87 on the halfback last year, and I'm pretty sure he had an injury that interrupted him. I
Yeah,
can't fully remember, but he definitely missed some weeks.
there was
Not sure
a
if it was an
there was a hamstring in the preseason where they're like, oh yeah, it's not that bad, and he missed like 10 weeks
misses
or
10
something.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, no, I reckon a full preseason, another year on in that position. He showed through the finals with Brisbane how damaging him and Rich can be. So yeah, if he can keep that form from last season, I can see him averaging 95, maybe even push it up to 100. So that's why I've chosen him as my mid pricer, even though with the price it's probably pushing Primo over mid price.
yeah. I found the breakout and the under the radar picks pretty hard, but I have not gone Coleman for this. I've gone Oscar McInerney, 487k. So again, probably not that mid pricer, but comparing the rucks, I'd probably say he is. He topped out at a 93.6 average in 2021, um, and he dropped down 5 points last season, which is unfortunate. He has the potential to score big points, but he needs to up his ceiling drastically. He had a low score of 57 last year, which is not good at all, but he had a high of 142. I think Dusty Fort does affect his scoring output, um, but with the midfield that's around him now, you still have Neil and McCluggage in there, but they're going to have Dunkley and Ashcroft who know how to get the ball. So he's a tap ruckman more than he is an around the ground ruckman. So he could get a big score boost from just that insane midfield. Um, and if he does improve that ceiling, he could easily average 100 plus. But too inconsistent at the moment. But yeah, that's who I went. Who's your avoid slash trap, Jack?
Well, I've gone someone who I've backed the last 2 seasons. I haven't put him in my team, but I said he's gonna have a big season. Zach fucking Bailey. He is the new Brody Smith. You start the year, you have hundreds. I think last year was round one or round two or something like that against Geelong at 130 odd and got robbed of kicking goal to win the game. And then you see 50s, 60s, 70s, 70s, 60s, 50s, then the occasional 100 at
Yeah.
421k. If he's consistent, he has the ceiling, but he's Brody Smith just from Queensland.
Well, Jack, guess who I put as my avoided trap?
Zach Bailey.
Zach Bailey. So he's 421k. His highest season average was in 2021, where he averaged 84.5. He was looking for more of a mid-time role last year, but he failed to secure that spot. And now with the inclusion of Dunkley and Ashcroft, I don't see him getting anywhere near that midfield. So just stay away from Zach Bailey, basically.
I was expecting a Zorko or someone more obvious, but I like how we've both gone, nah, fuck you, Zach Bailey.
Apparently, Zorko's trimmed down and he's looking good, so that's why I didn't put him. But I still
Well,
go near
I saw a
Zorko.
post from Brisbane today and they had 9 names saying will rotate through the midfield, including both Zach Bailey and Dane Zorko.
Yeah,
Depending on
they
how
all go
much
down
mid
here.
minutes they get compared to others, but there was a post from Brisbane expect these 9 players to be in the midfield this season.
Yeah, I wouldn't go on. All right, Jack. Who's your under the radar pick?
Well, it fits in perfectly with that post because I've gone a midfielder who had sadly got a different role last season and saw a drop, and that's Jared Lyons.
Okay.
At 500.3k, he averaged 90.9. Sadly, he got a different role last year, more forward, which sort of price drop. But I think with Josh Dunkley coming in, we can see him getting more mid minutes and be more of a rotating with Dunkley because I saw something saying Dunkley's practically going to play the same role that he did at the Bulldogs, start forward and go mid. So I
Okay.
can So I'm going off if that's true. Lions will be the one in midfield, and he will be the one switching with Dunkley, which will obviously boost the Lions score back up over 100. Do I see him as a top primo? No. Do I see him averaging that 1.5 to 110 with this role that has an M8, M7 spot to his name? Yes. And at 500k, if he gets that role, it's like locking in last year, an absolute fucking bargain.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. I do think Dunkley plays more mid um, than you're expecting, and I think Ashcroft they'd they'd want to develop Ashcroft's game. So I think he gets the minutes in there. And I think Lyons is unfortunately just a man that's stuck in no man's land at the moment.
It's a thing to look out for because preseason
Yeah,
games and stuff is everything. And like I said, they said 9 names were going through the midfield. How they split it, we don't know.
yeah,
I'm just going off price and what we know Lions can do,
yeah,
and from other things I'm hearing, like I
yeah,
mentioned with Dunkley.
yeah. I totally get it. My under the radar is your breakout pick. Killian Coleman, 479k, halfback role last year, which proved to be great for his scoring potential. As he bumped up his average from his last highest year of 62, he bumped that up by a massive 25 points. Could he go a step further this year? I think he does that if he stays fit and shows a little bit more consistency. Um, but again, it's probably not someone who I'm looking to go for. So, yep. That alrighty. So that's Brizzy done, Jack. We'll move on to Carlton. Who's your primo for the Blues?
So I think you can see a pattern with what I've been doing, and my Carlton best primo is not Patrick Cripps.
Oh,
It is a man that I mentioned to you earlier that I think I'm going to put in my team, and it is Samuel Doherty. Um, I also wanted to put him in under the radar, but I can't put him in both, so I've put him as my best primo.
yep,
603.6k defender, average 109.6. Showed again this season his class, his consistency. And I feel like he brings something to the Carlton team that a Cripps, a Hewitt, Kennedy, Walsh do not bring. Um, and that's why we see he scores so high off that halfback. So I think he's really underappreciated. Like I said, I wanted to put him in the under the radar because everyone's going to Dawson, Sicily with Stewart, and I'm not really seeing Sam Doherty's around.
yep.
And with the consistency we've seen with Sam Doherty for the last, however, like it's too long to remember. It's just every year class with Sam Doherty. That's why I've chucked him as my best primo.
Yeah, and there's a chance for more mid-time at the start of the season as well with all their injuries. So you could see a big spike definitely early. My primo is Paddy Cripps, 611k. He was the bloke who I said last year was finished, and then he comes out and wins a bloody Brownlow. So that's
I'm
my
pretty
bad.
sure I'm pretty sure I called him a useless prick halfway through the season.
Um, but in saying that, he's the only standing midfielder left at the moment, and someone has to touch the ball. So I'm basically saying it's going to be Paddy Cripps. I don't think he's an option to start though, as there's better value around his price. Um, and to be fair, to top what he did last year, he's going to have to beat a
Not get
Brownlow
injured.
year. He has to beat a Brownlow year, which is very hard to do. You don't really see many Brownlow winners go back to back. Um, he got PBs in everything last year except for clangers. So the only way he can really improve, you'd think, would be kicking the ball to his own players.
Come on, a
Um,
midfielder kicked the ball to their own players.
yeah, I know. But yeah, so I don't think he's an option, but he could definitely be someone early to go big when there's no one there. So, yep. All right, Jack, who's your rookie? I found this one hard.
Um, I had one option that I saw, and his name's Lockie Fogarty.
Okay,
He's at 167.4k, and the season before the last one, we saw him average 80 to 84.
okay.
Last season he was more of a fringe player, not really getting games. But with all the injuries Carlton's having at the moment, I can see him a big chance to play round one. And like I said from a couple seasons ago, we know what Lockie Fogarty can produce in Supercoach terms.
Yep.
So that's
Um,
why I've gone Lockie Fogarty.
yep. Nice. Well, I've gone David Cunningham, 163k. He's a mature age player. He's been in the system for a little bit now, so he's got that AFL experience. He doesn't have the greatest scoring potential, and he's a bit priced at 163k, so he could definitely grind out a 60 average and make, yeah, if you're lucky, 100k. His highest average in season is a 66.4, so um, definitely a bench option. I'd say, but you're gonna have 163k on the bench, probably not to start off. So yeah, I found that one hard, but I've heard good things about Ollie Hollands, the brother of Elijah, so he could definitely be one. But all right, Jack, who's your breakout slash mid pricer?
Well, funny enough, it's a bloke that I said last season avoid. Adam Chera,
Oh, okay,
504.4k. So he for a midfield, that's a mid pricer, but other positions it's a primo. Um, averaged 91 last season with injuries. A season under his belt in the new system, we saw that he got plenty of midfield minutes. If he can keep a healthy season and continue the form that he showed last season, he can easily average 110. Obviously, the big problem there is injuries. There's no one really coming in to affect his midfield role from last season because even when Walsh came in from injuries, his midfield role stayed the same and they rotated the four of them around with Matt Kennedy. Matt Kennedy was really the one to miss out, really, out of anyone. But at 504k, if Chera can stay healthy, I can see a big season for him. And I hate it because he should have joined the Tigers over Carlton.
yeah, but you'd prefer to have who you got this season over him, to be
Oh,
honest. So
100%.
yeah, mine is so he's the Voldemort equivalent from the Carlton Football Club. Paddy Dow. 251k. I know, but that's who I pick. Like, come on.
It was about to be delisted.
um,
Saying he's going fucking huge.
no. So surely this bloke shows something. Like, he's been in the system what 4 or 5 years now. Like, sure he can
And
show something.
he's produced a personal best of 5 touches.
Um, unfortunately, I do think he's a VFL bully because he seems to destroy it in the VFL, but then you put him in the AFL and he doesn't go near it. He's got a high season average of 59.6. That was in his first year, so he's gotten worse and worse. Um, he might be given an opportunity with all the injury woes in that midfield, but um, yeah, I didn't know who to put because I don't think apart from Dockley and Cribs at the moment, there's really no one worth talking about. So I had to choose someone. So Peter's my man.
And you've gone for the Carlton Aiden Bonner. If he plays games, he's winning it.
All right, mate. Let's move on. Who's your avoid and trap?
So my avoid is Patrick Cripps personally because every time I select him, he doesn't get over 80. So I'm avoiding him. But on a serious note, Charlie Curnow.
Oh, okay.
474.2k with an 86.1. He's a fantastic player, but it's his role. The role he plays, you can't see a boost from what he's scoring unless he's Tom Hawkins and becomes unselfish and gets 10 assists with his 6 goals, which you can't see that. I can't see that happening with Charlie Curnow. So I'd avoid him because of his role, and I can't see much improvement from his average. Obviously, he's going to have games where he goes huge, but being a key forward, you're always going to have those 40, 50-point games when
Yep.
you're being locked down. It's his role, it's not his skill.
So he won the Coleman, didn't he, last year?
Yes, and he
Yes.
averaged 86.1.
Yeah, so he's gonna have to beat that, um, to average higher. So yep, it's a good one. I've got for Jacob Wiedering, 378k. Someone we looked at in 2021 as a premium, as he came off a 94 average, but since has shown himself in some injury problems, over the last few years.
Yeah,
But
he injured himself trying to bump someone.
and he's also had to play a key position role when he's come back, so he hasn't had that. Um, I I guess that free roam role where he can intercept, which is where he's got a bulk of his points. Therefore, being a lot of a key position player, this affects his scoring output and potential. So um, I don't see him being anyone you should be looking at. So stay
Pretty much the
away.
same with me, just the other side of the field.
Yep. All right, Jack. Who's your under the radar pick?
Well, my under the radar pick comes perfectly with what you said earlier. There's only 2 Carlton players to pick from. We're forgetting about George Hewitt. He's 613k, the highest priced Supercoach Carlton player, and he's the highest priced Supercoach player for Carlton for a reason. Averaged 111.4, but people are getting scared and looking away from him because he doesn't have that defensive DPP status. And there's obviously people around there that will produce the same, if not a few points higher, like a Callum Mills, for example. He'll probably go at that like 115 for a bit more. But everyone's hiding away from Hewitt, and I reckon it's just because he's lost his DPP. He's still gonna be the George Hood he was last season. He's still gonna put in good, consistent scores, but I feel like losing that DPP, people are scared and running away from him.
Yep. But also he has just had back surgery, so he's another one who's injured. Um, so he's not a starting selection. And it might take him a few weeks to come back, so he might drop in price. And then I can see him being an option if he drops down to that 550 or 500k mark. But yeah, back surgery is keeping him out, so he's definitely a stay away at the start of the season and maybe a pick up around the buys. Mine is Adam Sard, 567k, someone who I got in my draft last year and it absolutely paid off. So average 103 last year, showed a lot more consistency. It was very damaging off the halfback, which you know he could be. He has a lower ceiling of low 60s, but he has the potential to hit 120 plus, as he did 7 times last year. And he turned up in 14 games. So in half the games he turned up, um, he scored 120 plus, with his highest score of 139. So not the biggest ceiling, but it is a decent ceiling there, and he's very consistent. So can he bump his average up a little bit more? Um, well, let's wait and see. With Doherty maybe pushing into that midfield, he might be the only one to get that ball running. So keep an eye on Adam Sard. Um,
Well, it's funny, he's one of the Carlton players I had in my like selections. I had him, Doherty, Hewitt, and I went with Hewitt because of, like I said, the defense DPP. No one talks about him. Obviously,
Yeah,
he's had the back surgery, which doesn't help. But
yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on to Collingwood then, Jack. The last team. So, who's your best primo?
Jeremy Howe, he's
Uh,
doing it this year.
no,
no,
he's not.
no, no, I'm joking. I actually found it hard to pick someone, so I just wanted to put that joke in with Jeremy Howe. I've gone with Tom Mitchell at 528.6k, average of 96. At Collingwood, I can see him playing a pure mid role, which if he does and goes back to that, we know he's going to average 115 to 120, and at 528.6k, he's looking like the Lockie Neal of last year.
Yep.
That a price with great scores.
I'm 50-50 on Mitchell at the moment. Yes, he's going to play mid, but is he going to get the ball enough? Is he going to get back to what he was? He's getting older now. I think he's close to 30 if he's not 30 already. I can see him going 105 to 110. But the reason I'm not selecting him is at 110 average, he's a M8, and I've already got Tom Green in there at the moment, who I think could possibly average higher. So Mitchell is a tough one. Um, I think it's worth paying up an extra 80k to get Jack Steele, just because we know Steele can average 120, and apart from last season where he had some injury woes, um, he has the potential to go big. Where I think Mitchell the last couple of years has been a bit iffy. So, all right, my primo, who is more of a mid pricer, but I think he should be in everyone's teams, is Darcy Cameron at 465k. He's going to be the number one ruck. Averaged 96.5 after Grundy went down in round six. With McStay coming in, I see him pinch hitting, so I don't see Cox playing at all.
I
So
do.
I think Cameron has to be an absolute lock. But saying that, I saw something before saying he left training early with an injury. When they're not sure what it is, so we have to keep an eye out on that, which is unfortunate. All right, Jack, your best rookie.
Well, I was going to select his name Jacob Ryan, I think he is, the
Yep,
cult hero with the mullet, just for the memes,
yep.
because Collingwood rookies, I think it's going to be the hardest team. I've legit just gone Charlie Dean at 123.9k because he was a chance to play last season before getting injured. I know nothing about the Collingwood rookies. You might know more than me. I just know he was so close to playing last season, so I've got to chuck him in. Bit like a Will Gould.
Yeah, I had Dean to start off in my team picker. The only question mark is does he play over Billy Frampton? That's the only person I see keeping him out. So he's probably not best 22. He's maybe that 23rd sub, possibly. Um, but I have gone Jacob Ryan, but I've also slashed Joe Richards because I think they're both going for the same role. So they're both 117k. They've both been really impressive over preseason. Richards can play off the halfback, but mainly he plays through the midfield, and he's a bit of a goal sneak, likes to push forward and score goals. Where Ryan, he also provides that run off the halfback. That's his game. His game is more of that, where Richards is more midfield push forward, but they both have the opportunity to play that behind the ball stuff. So with Dacos possibly rotating into the mid, it could free up a space, but are they best 22 or are they a sub risk? Um, but at the moment, Ryan and Richards and Dean are probably the three that are looking for a spot if there's one available. So that's who I've got there. All right, Jack, who's your breakout slash mid pricer?
Well, it was Darcy Cameron,
Okay.
and All I've got down is exactly what you said, so I don't feel like I can point anything out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. As I said, he averaged not 96 and a half, number one ruck. So yeah, if he's fit, because that injury news, if he's fit, you just have to select him if that's in your forward line or as your R2. So
It's very hard to find a Collingwood mid-pricer because, and this is not just joking with Jeremy Howe, around that 400k mark, he was the only other one where I was like, he could, but Darcy Cameron is a clear one,
yeah,
in my opinion. I
well,
didn't see anyone competing with those two.
I've got someone he's not a mid pricer, but I didn't pick him for a mid pricer. I picked him more for the breakout. And that's Nick Dacos, 503k. He has, as I said with the rookies, he has the potential to play through that mid. Um, and as I said, he has the potential to bump up that average. He averaged 91 last year, played off the halfback. If he gets some mid time, because I think there was two games where he had 11 and 13% CBA. So if he can bump that up to more games, you're looking at 20, 30%. That's maybe an extra 5 to 8 points. He takes kickouts. So I think he can bump it up possibly another 10 points and get over that 100 mark, which if we go on last season, um, the number 10 defender was Angus Brayshaw with 100 average flat, so he could easily come into that top 10 contention. And he's winning a Brownlow this year, so um, if he gets that mid time, I think he's a serious selection.
Well, the one thing with Nick Dacos as well is we're going to see more, not saying he wasn't, but more composure on the ball and smarter decisions, which will become more effective disposals, which will push him up. Because we saw last season he was getting like 30 touches every game, but there were the games where he scored low, he had low disposal efficiency, which I can see that happening less, being another year in the system, which
Yeah,
is why I had him in my team picker.
yeah, yep, I totally agree. Who's your avoid and trap?
There was only one man. As soon as I saw a void and heard I was doing Collingwood, it was written down before anything else, any other team, anything. Patrick fucking Lipinski. That man has the potential to average 115, 120. But if you watch Collingwood games, you'll see at the bottom corner of your screen, there's a man walking, just strutting up the fucking field. And who is it every time? Patrick Lipinski. But also his role, he played a lot forward last year, not as much mid, which dropped points. But his role also was so inconsistent. Sometimes he was forward, pushing up to a mid like a Dustin Martin does, but at times he was sitting there like a key forward, but he was playing forward pocket.
Yeah,
So like his role with old mate Craig McRae, it's very inconsistent, but also his work ethic. You could see his work ethic all year round. The games where he went big, you could see it was like he was interested and in with it. Where most weeks it kind of looked like he wasn't interested.
yeah,
Not saying he wasn't because I can't say he was or wasn't, but you could see him slacking off, walking, jogging instead of sprinting, trying to be the man in the chain.
yeah.
And he also spent a lot of time on the bench.
Yeah, I think we were all hoping he would get that inside mid role, but it just didn't happen, did it? And you started with him, so you had a headache.
I started with him. I was like, look at all this profit. He started so well. I'm like, I've got to keep him. And then I got stuck with him for the rest of the year. And I hate the bloke now.
Fair, fair. Well, I've got Jordan De Goey at 468k. His role it's unknown this year. There's always talks he'll go into the midfield, but then he's usually stuck up forward. And with the inclusion of Tom Mitchell, I think he gets less mid minutes because Dacos is going to go through there. We still get Pendles through there just because he's class. Um, I do still see him getting mid minutes, but I think he'll mainly be played as a forward. But I mean that could change because we could have Cameron, Cox, McStay. Two of those three could be up there depending on who's picked. So it'd be interesting to see, but I think it's safe to lock him in for an 85 average. But 468k, absolute, just stay away from Jordan De Goey.
Well, think about it. He's looking like a breakout year. It's the
Yeah.
first preseason where he hasn't been put into jail.
no, no,
He's been a good boy this preseason.
no,
He's
no,
going to be the best Supercoach player.
the jail years were his breakouts because he'd break out of prison. All right, Jack, who's your under the radar to finish off?
Well, I've been talking about this man a lot, and it is Billy Frampton.
Okay.
408k, average of an 82.3. Went down back for Adelaide last year. Played six games. I'm pretty sure it was. Had a game score 120. Um, he's shown he's comfortable down back. He's shown he can score well down back, but he's a risky under the radar pick because, like I said, he's only had the 6 games at 408k, so it's risky. But I can see him getting the same role at Collingwood, going straight in for Jordan Roughhead like he did at Adelaide, those 6 games where they had the injuries and they needed a key backman. He went straight in there for those 6 games until the injured players came back and he was straight back out the side. But I can see him being a very risky under the radar pick, and he's shown that he can do it at the AFL level as well.
Yep. So, yeah, very injury prone. The thing you have to think about is he going to take the number one defender, or is Darcy Moore going to? Does he
I
play?
think Darcy Moore does, and that frees up room for more points for him.
Yeah. Collingwood seem to struggle against teams that have 2 to 3 big men. So um, there's going to be games where he's going to score very low. So yeah, I mean, if you're brave enough, why not? But wait for pre-season to see what role he is playing. My under the radar is Jack Crisp at 420k. Um, Tom Mitchell in and rotation minutes to Pendles and Dacos. I think we can see Chris running off the half back again. And that's where he scored most of his points. Or maybe even off the wing. Um, he's a player that if Tom Mitchell gets the ball from a centre bounce, he can handball and then another handball, and there's Chris running past, getting meters gained, effective kick, maybe even goal assists. So I could see him possibly bumping his average back up to what he was a few years ago in 2021 at 104.9. So he could definitely go 105. I think he's a mid only though, so
He is, so you'd have to hope for DPP or else
it's
he's
not great,
useless.
but yeah, definitely DPP look. So, all right, that's the 4 teams done. Jack, do you have anything to say before we sign off here?
Mason Cox, Norm Smith medalist.
Stop it. There was news. For those who've been watching pre-season, Taron Thomas has been doing well in match sim off the half back, but he got arrested by the police for driving without a license. So who knows what's going on there? Is
This
that
was
going?
this was back in December,
Yep, this is
so
around
it
Christmas
might
time.
be a small thing with that, but obviously there's no details we don't know yet. But I did hear that the incident did happen in
Yep,
December and it's
yep.
catching up to him now.
Um, the thing you have to think about is last year, Jason Horn Francis didn't want to hop in an ice bath and he got dropped for a week. So, what's going to happen with Thomas? Who
Well,
knows?
different coach.
That's true, but yeah,
David Noble doesn't know what he's doing. Clarkson, even though Clarkson's got his own troubles on him through the preseason, he's shown that if a player has a rough period, that he backs him in
yep,
and gives them the confidence to go and perform. And that's why
yep,
Hawthorn was so successful underneath him.
yep. So yeah. I just wanted to put that in there. But that'll do us for today's episode. Um, what do you think about our selections? Is there people you would put differently, or someone that you're keeping an eye on? So let us know on Twitter at Breakevens Pod, or in the comments section on YouTube. You just search Breakevens there, and we're on Apple Podcasts, as you know, the Breakevens. So thank you all for listening, watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a follow. We're trying to get 500 followers on Twitter and 50 subscribers on YouTube. So help us out there to get our goals for the year. So without further ado, that's it. So until next time, it's bye for now.